What is up, people? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, which means it's check-in day. So you should have seen me sitting there at the laptop doing check-ins as well as my own check-in. So last week we talked about, get this face tracking on. So last week we talked about the yearly review that I was doing with clients. Now, week to week we have check-ins, and you can see I did my own check-in, my own coach. AJ sent over my pictures. Also did a round of posing there for you, just to see what the physique is currently looking like. So AJ doesn't get that one, so that's an exclusive for you guys. So the weekly check-in essentially acts as the more frequent stop point for you to review if your actions have been going in line with your goals. So I actually do two check-ins a week for myself, right? So I've got the check-in that I do for AJ, where I am taking progress pictures, I am keeping track of my protein, carbs, fats, my body weight, my sleep, my step count. That's for my physique development. He has a questionnaire which I fill out as well, just going over mood, energy, sleep, stress, any wins for the week, anything I particularly struggle with, anything that might interrupt progression this week, and so on. And it's kind of a similar approach that I use with my clients too. So they will fill out similar type of tracker. They will give me an overview of their week. They'll send you a voice note. They'll record a video of themselves talking through their week, or they will just fill out a form, whichever one kind of suits their communication style. That's the one I get them to do, because some people are going to differ, right? Some people like to speak a little bit more, and that's how they like verbalize their thought, or that's how they get their thoughts out of their head. And some people need a little bit more time. Some people need to sit down and actually write everything down. So I'm a lot more flexible than I have in the past, and that's just a kind of recent change to my coaching. The other check-in I do is just me checking in with myself on my business. So what I do is I track my outputs. So what have I done this week in regards to my Instagram output, how many reels I made, how many posts I've made in general. I look at the YouTube, how many videos I've made, how many shorts I've made. With the podcast as well, I track how many podcasts I've recorded, how many that I've uploaded, and then with all of them I'm also tracking the outcome. So like, follower counts, subscriber counts, listens, and the likes, because the inputs, like what we're doing, they have a massive impact on the outputs, right? We can't control the outputs. We can say I want to have X amount of followers, or I want to have X body weight, but if you're not tracking the inputs, then it can just ultimately become a bit of a wish. So that's the whole point of the check-ins. It's to say, okay, this is the outcome for the week. Whether it's your body weight, your body composition, your lifts, or in my case, big things I'm working towards, just business growth. So I need to be able to track what are the numbers looking like at the end of the week, but then also what I've actually done. And then it serves as a useful time to see, okay, are my actions actually aligning the goals I want and aligning with the behaviors that I think somebody who has that goal is doing? And if not, it's a point to change. If they are, then it's a case of keep going. But also have to look alongside, the quality of those behaviors too, because ultimately at the end of the day, you can be really consistent with doing certain behaviors, but if they are not 100% aligned, the quality is not as good, well then that again is something that needs to be changed. So you only really get this when you do have some type of weekly check-in every week, and you can do your own. If you actually want access to my own tracking document I use with my clients, just drop me a message and I'll send it over to you, because regardless of whether you're working with a coach or not, you can use things like this for yourself. I have past clients who still use my coaching sheets to help them with their own body composition management and training, because having everything in one place and being able to look over objective data over time and see what's worked in the past, what hasn't been working, and just being able to remain accountable by having things down on a piece of paper or in a spreadsheet in this case can serve you massively for your training goals. So today is going to be an upper body training session. I am going to do my very best today to actually speak a little bit in the gym. I'm going to give you some exercise pointers because I know that's something that I've been slacking on and something I want to bring back, because not only does it help you guys, but also does give me a little more content across platform on the likes of Instagram, and even build up the likes of the YouTube shorts. So have some good tips to go through for particular exercises, which we'll get to when we get there. But the physique video this morning, man, I'm like never looking. So this is pretty much 93 kilos, and this used to be the weight that I would compete at in powerlifting in my probably first 6 competitions as an under 93. So definitely lean as a bin at this body weight, and that's just the byproduct of keeping super consistent with the likes of the nutrition across the last couple of months, and keeping on top of the rate of gain and not allowing myself to become too much of a fat bastard. Now, as much as I hate to do it, because I do have some good momentum coming behind me right now, probably towards the end of the month I'm going to do a little bit of a diet, and that's just pre-wedding. So even while I'm not fat at all now, I definitely would like my face to be a tiny bit leaner. Now I think I could do that with losing like 2 to 3 kilos, because I know around 90 kilos my face looks a lot sharper. And as well, on my wedding day, you know, I want to ensure that I'm looking fresh as fuck. So I have my final suit fitting for the wedding on the week of the 1st of March. So I'm going to diet up to then. So I'll probably start a diet at the end of this month, 4 weeks, drop 3 kilos or so, easy work, and then final suit fitting, and then essentially just reverse diet up to the wedding, and then that likely gives me still about 6 months of gaining until something like a pre-prep diet starts. Now I did kind of mention all this morning in my check-in to AJ, so we will know what his thoughts are very, very soon. So yeah, it's either his dreams are going to be squashed or Emma's dreams are going to be squashed.
And I think we all know whose dreams are more important.
AJ's. So the verdict is in. So you just see me watching my check-in back from AJ there, and thankfully he's on board with the plan. Like I knew he would be, because realistically I have a long period of time before I start my pre-prep diet. So the plan is continue on with this gain train until the end of the month, and then start of February, 4 weeks of a deficit, and then that's going to bring me up to my legal wedding as well as my final suit fitting, and then I'll essentially just be bringing calories back up from March until September. So that still gives me like 6 months of gaining, and that will put me, before I start to pre-prep, at 12 months of gaining from when I finished my powerlifting journey, right? So I think it was 4 months of dieting to go from 100 to 86, and then 6 months of gaining, going from 86 to I'll probably be about 94 maybe by the end of this month. We'll do a month of a diet, short and sharp, just get my face looking a little bit leaner, and then 6 months of gaining again, probably get up to 95 as a top weight potentially, depending on how my weight decides to play ball, and then it'll be pre-prep. So the pre-prep essentially is just to set me up for the prep the following year. So get a good bit leaner, and then reverse diet back up into the following year, and then probably start prep, I'd imagine, around March potentially, if I'm going to be competing in September. So that's the plan. Now you see that AJ sent me over a video check-in, and that's the exact same way that I give all of my clients their check-ins. So I've done 3 so far this morning, and they always vary in length, right? So I had one this morning that was 7 minutes long, and then I had 2 which were 20 minutes long. And this is like one really important aspect of the coaching process, is that like when I'm doing them, I'm giving each client their time and what they need. Some clients, they have low questions, they have very little training videos for me to go through. Maybe they send me their training videos earlier on the week and I already went through it in a text format. But sometimes it's just a case of a review of the week, actions and intentions for the following week, and then we check back in the following one. But other times people are going to have more training videos, which they send me over on their check-in day, or they may have just like lots more questions, or maybe they just have other things that require a little bit more oversight and a little bit more strategic planning for. So that's what I essentially do within the likes of the check-in. We go through the week, what went well, what didn't, set intentions for the following week, review it the next week. And then the process evolves. And a lot of times when people get to a position where things are quite comfy, their check-in length ultimately does reduce, right? Like my check-in today from AJ was like 5 minutes. He didn't need to go over a huge amount. He just had to answer my query about the timeline. He had to just let me know what I need to do for next week, which is essentially just repeating what I did last week because everything's gone swimmingly. So if you get feedback from a coach or your coach and it's short, usually it's the case that you're doing everything correct. However, there are different types of checking communications that different coaches use, right? So I use video recording because I do think that like tonality of voice matters, and even just somebody kind of seeing that you're going through everything does kind of show the person that they're actually getting the service they pay for. There are other forms of checking communication which I've never done and I don't quite agree with. So like email for like base check-ins, like in 2026, considering AI is, you know, is so prevalent, it's very easy for people to make their jobs very easy and use AI to kind of give people feedback in that way. And then there's also just like, I've seen some very poor coaching from other people where they will just like somebody's check-in, right? They might send them a check-in on WhatsApp, right? The client send them a check-in on WhatsApp, and then they might just like the message. And you know, these people could be charging a lot more than I am and giving a much lower service. But ultimately for me, coaching is about developing a relationship with that person as well as getting to their goal, showing them that like I generally do care about what they're working towards, and any good coach will do that. Look out for that when you're working with a coach, right? Or if you're looking to work with a coach, ask them what type of way that they do their check-ins. Just ensure that you are going to get as much value as you can. I do think for the most part, if you're working with a coach, they should be doing video check-ins like I'm doing, or they should be doing calls, right? Some people do calls more often depending on their specific niche. It could be more kind of therapy, mindset, psychology, or building people's relationship with food, and that requires a little bit more kind of face-to-face communication versus just a video and we'll talk next week, because it maybe requires some challenging of thought processes. I have a number to do before I have a call with a client who's in Australia, then have a business call, and then we're gonna go and do some training. All right, let's get to work. All right, people, we had a bit of a disaster with the microphone. So I had my DJI mic, as you can see here, charged it up for about an hour before I went to train, and it didn't actually charge. So yeah, we're here with a voiceover. I was considering just starting a video on a different day and starting a vlog on a different day because of that, but I was like, you know what, that kind of goes against my whole mantra around not having to be perfect, you know, get something out that's good enough and still going to provide some value. So starting off with a chest fly here on a machine. I changed this out from the incline dumbbell fly, and while this one here and the incline dumbbell fly, the slight differences in regards to arm path. Obviously the incline fly on a 30 degree is going to have a bit more of a upward arm path, so I'm going to get a bit more kind of upper pec fibers. My brachioradialis, so this muscle here on my forearm, it is quite sore at the moment when I get the dumbbells up in a position, so I just chose to put this in and slip this in while that pain is there. It's still going to be targeting my chest, which is the kind of main thing that I'm really trying to get out of this exercise, and it's felt really, really nice. I haven't used this piece in a long period of time. One annoying thing about this particular machine is you can see there that I'm sitting on a block, and that's because this machine, like the seat is broken. They haven't fixed it in a long time. Big things that I'm really thinking about here is driving the biceps together. A big mistake people make when they're doing something like a pec fly is they think about touching their hands off each other, and that's not the intent that we're looking for. The intent that we're looking for is driving the biceps toward each other, just driving the upper arm across the body, and that's going to get the pec nice and short. So this is a nice exercise for me to start off the session with. Get a lot of blood flow into the pecs while not taking away from any of the energy I'll have for the likes of my big press movement later on in the session. It's just me adjusting the cable stack and the load. So big key here, if you are looking at micro load plates, put them on the stack like that, just over the pin. Because a lot of times you will have jumps between plates which are, 7 to 10 kilos or so, and even if they do have the little weights that do kind of move down the track, as you'll see there on top of the stack. Sometimes you may just want to micro load a little bit more. Maybe know that you could maybe add an extra kilo, but not the extra two kilos that is there on the stack. So that could be a good move. Or in this case, like myself, I have completely finished the stack. There's no more weight to add, so now I just have to add weight over it. So just being smart here and just adding like 1 to 2 kilo at a time, just as I hit the top end of my rep range. So with this neutral grip row, I do have a bias a little bit more to be a bit more underhand, so a bit more kind of supinated or palm up towards the ceiling. You'll see here as I'm getting into position that I pull the slack out of the cable initially and drive my elbows down and try to depress my shoulder blades. And this is just so that I can get into position easier, and so that when I'm getting into position, the weight has completely pulled the slack out of my body, right? I want to be able to start in a position where I can feel a bit of lat contraction, and then as I guide my arms upwards, I know that I'm going to be essentially trying to maintain that feeling through the set. So starting off with a little bit of lat contraction at the start, depressing shoulder blades, and as I get in a position, let my arms guide upwards, and just coming to the end range of motion that I can control while keeping my palm facing up. And a big thing I'm also thinking about here is I'm thinking about kind of keeping my chest more driven down, just so that I can get a little bit more length into my lats as my arms go up overhead. Following that, I'm onto the likes of my chest support row here. Been really enjoying this one. So I subbed this out for the Atlantis chest support row a couple of months back. And the main reason I actually changed it was just because the Atlantis one, once you get up to a certain weight, it just kind of feels janky, especially because the cables are not like on a fixed path. Whereas you see that this Prime machine here is on a fixed path of motion, right? There's no other way for my arms to move other than the path of motion of the machine. Whereas the likes of the Atlantis cable row there's too much movement. So when I was failing, for example, I could have stronger body parts taken over versus the area which I really want to train. So the main thing I'm looking to get out of here is some more upper back. Like there is still going to be lats here because I do have a bit more of a closer arm pad to the side, but big thing I'm thinking about here is like having a low reach and driving my shoulder blades upwards. Okay, so trying to get like the likes of the upper traps, the mid traps, very much involved in this movement, and really focusing on just allowing my scapula or my shoulder blades to move freely, alongside driving my elbows back to the back of the room as I go through the pull. Also important in these, when you are doing them, to not like come into protraction at the bottom, so letting your shoulder blades to roll forward, but not like trying to like move your spine, go into spinal flexion over the actual pad itself. Bench press, one of my old favorites. So this has been back in the rotation for probably about 4 months now, and it's progressing quite nicely. Like considering when I was doing powerlifting, I was benching like 3 to 4 times a week. Now I'm only doing it once per week, and I don't think my strength is all that like far off where I was when I was doing powerlifting. So the main changes I've kind of made here relative to my powerlifting bench was all about minimizing range of motion and maximizing efficiency. So I had the widest grip possible. I used max legal grip. I had my index finger over the ring, whereas this one here, my pinky finger is now on the ring, or just slightly inside the ring. So I get a little bit of a closer arm path. That's allowed me to get a little bit more kind of length in through the pecs at the bottom position too, as well as through the triceps, and get more power in through the triceps too. When hand is outside the elbow with a max legal grip, you are not going to get as much tricep contribution, and but it will also be the limiting factor towards the top end, because it just doesn't have a great amount of leverage through the top end of the press. So I'm able to use pretty much everything here from press perspective: chest, delts, triceps, and I was able to get up to 130 for 6 reps on the first set, and then I did 130 for 5 on the second one. One thing I see me do here is I pull myself into the bench, so I'm thinking about wedging myself between the bench and the bar. Shoulder blades pull down, not pull back. It's a big misconception. People think about kind of retracting their shoulder blades. We don't want to think about retracting, we want to think about pulling them down. Pulling them down is going to bring your chest into, or your ribs and your upper back into a bit of extension, and it's going to allow you to kind of set the chest a little bit above the triceps, or above the shoulders, so you get a little bit more power out of them, and leverage, versus if people bench with too much of a flat back, they can find that they just end up getting a lot more shoulder. So utilize the arch. Remember, pull the shoulder blades down, keep that chest pointed up towards the sky. And the other nice cue I cue a lot of my clients is to think about meet your chest to the bar versus just bring the bar to your chest, and that just continues to have you cue that chest up position. So mainly having this one in here as a way to just increase some front delt as well as upper chest involvement. So when you're performing shoulder press with this more neutral grip, you're going to get a good degree of adduction through the likes of your upper arm, and that's going to bring the arm up across the body, and that's the direction of this machine too, the direction of the path of motion. So that's going to get a little bit of upper pec involvement as well as some front delts. So just some additional volume there in a body part where I realistically need it. And then we are on to the final few parts of this training session. So just some arms here to finish. I fucking love this session. Like, after, I just feel pumped in all the right places. I'm using this prime rotate handle here because I was actually getting some pain with the easy curl handle that I had been using, pain on the outside of my elbow, whereas this, just because the actual handles or trading arms, they're able to kind of move around, I'm able to get them in a position where I don't notice any pain. It's quite comfortable. I'm still able to get a full degree of elbow flexion there at the top, and they just feel absolutely mega. So I'm just going to keep them here and continue running them until I hit some type of plateau and have to change out for something else. And then we're on to my final exercise, which is probably my favorite bicep exercise that I've done in a long period of time. So just face away cable curl. See, I'm getting up to a decent amount of weight here, and I'm actually doing these with like 6 to 10 rep range, so pretty heavy. Big thing I'm thinking about is keeping my elbows glued to my side. So I'm thinking about as if there's like a rod going through elbow to elbow, and the aim is to not have that kind of run past my body, so I can just really focus on elbow flexion and getting in as much kind of tension in through the biceps, and not having the likes of my shoulder flexors start to come into the mix. So that's the end of that session, and I'm going to just cut the vlog here. So I'm recording this on Thursday now, a couple of days later, because I didn't finish up that video properly. I was in a bad hit. I was in a negative mind space after fucking the mic not turned on, or he pissed me off. So I was like, fuck's sake, I'm not going to be able to fucking finish off this video properly. So look, I'm finished off now. Hopefully you got some tips from the training session which I just had there. And yeah, look, next time this will be charged. I've already gotten up to, oh my god, it might be broken. There we go. It's turning on now. So yeah, look, next time I'm in the gym, I'll actually do some talking bitch, because I do completely understand that these are not necessarily the best, because I am kind of rushing through the clips. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, please give me a like. It'll make myself feel a little bit better. Subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, we will chat to you in the next one.